So the Bills have now lost 4 times to the Kansas City Chiefs, and will they ever get over the hump? This reminds me of the Toronto Raptors whenever they play the LeBron-led Cavaliers. No matter how good the Toronto Raptors may look, they continue to falter under the lights against a guy like LeBron James. And I remember in 2018 when DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry had this phenomenal year. They won the #1 seed. They had a franchise record 59 wins. But in the second round, LeBron had arguably his worst Cleveland roster with a bunch of guys, and they swept the top-seeded Toronto Raptors in 4 games. And that's a choke job at its finest. I know I don't think the Bills necessarily choked, but they did miss a ton of opportunities in this game. And yet again, they're eliminated by Kansas City and the Chiefs. And yet again, Josh Allen has been magnificent this season, but in the regular season, that's one thing, but in the postseason, it's another thing. And he's 0-4 against Mahomes and the Chiefs, and for whatever reason, there's just always something going on with the Bills. For whatever reason, they get tight, they miscue, they make mistakes at crucial junctures of the game, and they routinely find themselves sitting on their couch after a game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And this being their 4th loss against these dynastic Kansas City Chiefs, well, do you think that they're ever going to break through? This reminds me of when the Eastern Conference was dominated by LeBron James and even Michael Jordan in the past. There was a lot of teams that were just so good, but when they faced these superstar players, well, they just couldn't get over the hump. And they've had talent. The Bills have had talented receiving rooms. They've had talented defenses to match up with the Kansas City Chiefs, but they continue to crumble. I mean, under high pressure situations, they fall, they get tight, they seasonally choke. And every year it comes down to getting stops on 4th down. Every mistake that the Bills make, the Chiefs make them pay for it. I mentioned the opening drive disaster earlier, but when you think about the other opportunities like the missed 2-point conversions or not getting stops on 4th down, I mean, those are huge missed opportunities that paid a big price for the Buffalo Bills. The lack of touches for James Cook, despite him reeling off with 6 yards a pop, made no sense to me. He had 13 carries and 3 receptions, but he's a guy that needs at least 20 touches in a given ball game. I know he's not maybe a bell cow back just yet, but he did lead the league in rushing touchdowns. And I do think that he had opportunities in the red zone and he made them and he rewarded them, but where's the consistency, especially in these short yardage situations? I mean, if anything, you could run a pitch option, speed option between Josh Allen and James Cook, and I'm pretty sure James Cook could get to the edge and get that 1st down yardage that they needed. The Bills just do not have a #1 receiver, and this is coming a year after trading Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans, and this year, whether it's in the draft or the free agency pool, they'll absolutely have to grab a #1 receiver. The Chiefs this year have done it and have made it a season where they've lost Rashee Rice, but supplanted that talent or replenished the talent with Xavier Worthy and DeAndre Hopkins and a ragtag group of guys between Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. Well, this last couple of years was the opportunity to take advantage of a weakened Chiefs team, but after this season, they're going to get Rashee Rice back. They're going to get some more polish on the offensive side, and that dynasty is going to continue to roll whether we like it or not. And the other question I have now is, has this Bills team hit the ceiling with Sean McDermott? McDermott has gone up against his former teacher, Andy Reid, 4 times in the playoffs and has failed to live up to expectations or match up against his former teacher in all 4 matchups. He's been aggressive in the regular season, but for whatever reason, the postseason, his guys aren't lined up right. They commit bad turnovers or mistakes here and there. And after a while, how much longer can you deal with not getting over the hump? In the modern NFL, when you have a defensive-minded head coach, I mean, you got to think about the questionable fourth down decisions. Why go tush-push after it's been stopped so many times? Like I said, you have James Cook, or you could maybe even use Khalil Shakir, the most shifty receiver of the bunch. But for whatever reason, he decides to beat the dead horse and fail continuously. And when you have the ball late to either tie or take the lead, you never accounted for the cornerback blitz. You've seen it now in the tape. So for whatever reason, you're just not doing your homework enough. And this is again the case where the Bills could have prepared better, they could have looked better and executed better, but they failed to do so. When the Bills needed a stop, and this is Sean McDermott's area of expertise, well, the defense just could not make stops, whether it was in the red zone, whether it was when they needed to on that last-ditch opportunity to give Josh Allen a chance to touch the ball, to tie it late. Well, all they had to do was prevent 2 first downs, but the Chiefs picked it up relatively easily and rolled out the clock for the rest of the game. I will give the Bills defense credit for picking up a Mahomes turnover and also getting a red zone stop to give Josh Allen a chance. But I mean, the other trips to the red zone were far too easy. They just did not make the Chiefs earn their 7 points. Additionally, you got to think about the stops, where on a combined 3rd and 4th down situations, the Bills defense allowed 6 out of 10 conversions, and that's just not going to get it done, especially against Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. They had 0 answers whenever Mahomes scrambled, and whenever Josh Allen had opportunities, they just didn't come up when they needed to. The Bulls moved off Doug Collins after hitting a wall with Michael Jordan, and after giving the reins over to Phil Jackson, well, look at that. They ended up winning 6 championships. And similarly with Andy Reid, he had a lot of success with Philadelphia, made 5 conference championship games, and even had a Super Bowl appearance. But after a while, it got stale, and the Eagles moved on, and it worked out for both sides. Well, maybe this is a similar case where Sean McDermott maybe needs a change of scenery, and the Bills need to maybe have a change of scenery with the guy making all the calls for this team, because after a while, I'm not sure what else will work for these Buffalo Bills, because after a while, eventually your chances run out, and just like all the other great AFC teams, you have to bend the knee to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.